Hello everybody, welcome to Shiny Fine Arts. Today we are going to learn how to paint this realistic peony with watercolors. Now when I say how to paint, this is not going to be a tutorial where I will step by step walk you through a painting like the paint by numbers style of painting. No, this is not that. I have not gone into like how to make a pink color and where to put what color and what exactly replicating this painting is not what this tutorial is about. This tutorial is more as to how to's and do's and don'ts while you are painting peonies or in general flowers with watercolors. Now why so? It's because when I try watercolor, I realized that this is a medium which is a little different from my regular works of graphite or my regular paintings, oil or acrylic. The reason it is different is because watercolor is a medium that is not as forgiving. If you make a mistake, it is much harder to cover it or go back and undo the mistake. Now in case of oil and acrylic paint, you can paint over it with an opaque color and everything is well and good. In case of graphite, erase and you are again well and good. But in case of watercolor, you will have to plan a little bit a painting before you jump into it. And that is what I am exploring in this, how to leave a little bit of white areas and why to leave those areas white and let the paper show through, how to do the light highlights and how to plan them along, how to go from light to dark and why I go from light to dark and not the opposite. And that is what all I have described in this painting. I hope you find this painting useful, or rather this tutorial useful, and let me know in your likes and comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because subscribing is the only way to come to know when a new video is coming up. Although I post new videos every week, every Wednesday and every Friday evening. I do. But it's still better to subscribe to keep track of what's going on and what's coming up. I hope you enjoy this as much as everything else. As usual, I'll put a link to all my social media presence, website, email, everything in the video description. Have fun watching.
I'm starting off with wetting around the drawing of the peony with water. Now wetting is like putting in enough water that the paper actually soaks in, and it will look shiny, but there will not be globs of water everywhere, but the paper will still be very wet, and if you look at it underwater it will look shiny. Now around the peony I'm kind of blocking in a green color, and it's important to notice that at different areas I'm kind of varying the shades of green, the lightness or the darkness. It is important in watercolors that these backgrounds have a little bit of variation in the depth and in the darkness. That actually creates kind of an interesting backdrop for your foreground, and slowly as you build up, it will help you out. Now that I'm starting with the peony itself, you will see that I am starting off with a very, very, very light color, because when I paint in watercolor, I prefer to paint from very light towards dark. Now I'm blocking in each petal at a time. Please notice that I'm leaving a lot of spaces white. Like you can see that there are narrow borders and areas that I'm leaving white and letting the paper show through. You can always use masking fluid, but this paper, I don't know, probably because it's kind of cheap quality watercolor paper, or maybe not enough weight or something wrong with it. that when I'm pulling off the masking fluid, the paper is kind of ripping with it. That's why I am leaving areas white instead, and that's how it will help creating that very bright highlights. Now you see that I'm still blocking in kind of like one petal at a time, leaving enough of white spaces around it. And most of the petals I am blocking with a very light pink color. Sometimes I'm going a little bit dark depending on the value and depth and the way the light and shadows are created. In some of the petals you will see that I'm pulling in a little bit of blue and having a violet color, because when light hits the petals in a certain way, because of the shadow color, which is darker color, and the pink mixing together, sometimes creates a mauve kind of color. Now I'm starting to shade in. You will see that I'm still kind of going from light to dark, and obviously around the center of the flower, where the sun is not, or the light is not reaching very well, would be darker than the tip of the petals, and that is what I'm trying to follow when I'm doing these petals and putting in shadows and shading it. You see that I'm now pulling in a lot of blue to indicate shadows and to create different kind of values. It looks at this point that I'm making very sketchy lines. Yes, I am, but then that is on purpose. And it is kind of important to keep these lines sketchy because I'm trying to show some veins in those flowers, and this is the best way to do it. Now I am trying to darken some parts of the background. Notice that not all parts of the background is equally dark, because that will kind of make it very boring and uninteresting. So you want to leave some of the background a little bit darker and some a little bit lighter, and that's what will create the variation. See, I'm sketching in more veins on the central flower petals, coming back with darker colors to create the hint of shadows, sketching the lines, the veins of the petals. And you see that I'm using a bright brush, or rather a long brush, and that's why I'm using just the corner of the brush. I'm not laying the whole brush flat unless I'm laying like colors in the background. When I'm working on the flower petals, I'm using the brush with the corners. If you find that difficult, please switch on to a narrower brush, or rather a detail brush, rigger brush, whatever you call it, whatever suits you. But I could work pretty okay with the corner of a brush as long as I have my painting planned out. This is one more thing I'd like to stress about watercolor. Plan a little bit ahead of time, because watercolor is not a very forgiving medium. It is not as easy to change it once it is painted over, not as easy to cover up mistakes. So plan a little bit ahead how light you want to go and how dark you want to go and how many layers you would build up and what colors you would use, and that will help a lot when you're building up. I am still kind of building up one petal at a time, and that's a very good way to paint no matter what kind of medium you are painting with. When you're doing flowers like peonies and roses, do one petal at a time instead of going broader regions, unless you are kind of working on a little painterly or impressionistic or abstract kind of way. If you're trying to do realism, like my intention here is to be realistic, make it a realistic peony, then do one petal at a time. That would be so much easier for you. That way you can do one, and then depending on that one, you can arrange the petals around and block in the values and understand the values variously. And you see that I'm jumping all over the painting so that I can kind of keep it cohesive, but I'm still working one petal at a time. You can work over your entire painting, but one at a time. So it's okay to move from one area to the other as long as you do one painting at a time.